So you wanna climb the Tower of Barbs, right kiddo? Well, you can't do that without getting through floors 21 to 30. Not gonna lie, this is what I consider the make or break floor since this is where a lot of people quit the game, so you're gonna need all the help you can get. With that being said, I'd like to introduce you to a very handy resource sheet put together by the streamer Oberlinx and a bunch of other people. This resource sheet shows the layout of the floors, what direction their connecting gates lock, and what resources you can get there. The best part of this sheet is that it updates itself to match the current day's floor layout, so it will always be accurate no matter what day you view it on. As a bonus, going to the Express Login tab will show you what Express Login item you will get each day. Personally, I use this tab to keep a lookout on when death medals are offered as an Express Login reward. This sheet is handy because at this point of the game, my tip would be to gain access to tier 3 weapons and armor before attempting to push through the next floor range. If for example you need tier 3 metals, you can just check the sheet where there are metal only floors on 11 to 20. These floors have a chance to contain tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 metals. You don't have to do this, but this is the safest way to get to tier 3 materials. If you feel like you're up to the challenge though, the 21st and 22nd floor will give you all the resources you'll need for tier 3 gear. More on that later. Since you've beaten Max and Jackson already, their weekly kill quests will start appearing now. I recommend you do them as soon as any of them show up because one is available per week and they reward you with red metals of their faction. Speaking of quests, if you're running short on tuber metals, I recommend you clean up the quests you haven't done before. I also found that there were some quests that give black metals which are essential to tier 3 gear. Right about now would be a good time to start raiding since the lithium cost of upgrading gear gets higher around the tier 3 range. For this, my tip is to sort by rank and try to attack bases which are around rank 35 or below and select the one with the most lithium. If they don't give much resources, raid them anyways since there is a successful raiding bonus which increases as you go higher in rank. The goal here is to get the gold since the minimum raiding bonus is 4,000 kill coins and lithium per successful raid. Also, raiding gives a chance of getting lost bags which contains lithium, death metals, or tier 3 items. Another good source of tier 3 items is the vending machine, so check out the daily deals whenever you get the chance. As for the main way of getting materials for tier 3 gear, I believe climbing to Akami to Kawabe would be your best bet. This is because you can get all tier 3 items and most importantly, faction black metals around these low floors. Take note however that the faction metals can only be found in a trap room in Kawabe. You may want to deal with the Bone Tuber first because they're way more mobile than the axe-wielding Screamer. As for the lower level quests, you'll find quests that may have looked difficult before but becomes doable when you get stronger fighters. An example for these quests would be climbing from one point to another, beating all enemies without armor. If you bring a 3-star fighter around those floor ranges, you can easily finish these types of quests. Make sure that you defeat all enemies on the floor though, or else you won't be able to complete the quest. Personally, I use the death medals I get solely for increasing my storage space. Once you've upgraded your gear to tier 3, you can attempt to activate the elevator on the 23rd floor. The Screamers here generally use axes, spears, claws, and crossbows. The crossbows can easily be dodged by dodge rolling when you see them fire. They don't really fire at a fast rate, so 2 dodges before counterattacking should be enough. As for the claws, they have a really short range so you can hit them with a longer range weapon if they're not blocking. Be careful though because their attacks can inflict poison, so if you get affected by it, make sure you're in a safe place when you try to puke. Some of them may use axes which have a pretty slow attack but hits hard if you're careless, so watch out for that overhead swing. They can also wield spears which are the most lethal Screamers in my opinion. They can do a thrusting attack and a sweeping attack and deal a lot of damage very quickly. For the thrusting attack, you'll be able to dodge better if you run to their side. For the sweeping attack however, you can simply walk away to dodge it. Take note though, if you mix up your responses for each attack, you will get hit with very big damage, so try to memorize the starting animation for each attack and dodge accordingly. For the Sword Screamers, just take note that they can swipe a maximum of 3 times, so dodge accordingly. For the Rocket Launcher haters, you'll be fine as long as you don't run towards them or stay on the same place once they start aiming. Lastly, be careful with the Lightning Rod haters since they have a high damage output. You can either stay out of their range while firing at them or rush at them with the melee attack so you can interrupt their channel attack as soon as they start. For this floor range, I recommend using the spear, axe, and crossbow weapons. The spear, because it's got this very strong attack where you do a thrust jump, which deals a ton of damage at decent range. Its rage move requires 3 rage points though, but it's a great source of burst damage depending on the situation. If you manage to get a bunch of screamers in a line, I can see this rage move getting a ton of value. The axe, because if you're able to learn when to strike, you can deal a huge amount of damage per swipe. I don't recommend using this on bosses though, but it's still up to you. I personally just use the quick swipes since it's easy to hit and it chains together pretty well. Its rage move is a spin move which requires 2 rage points. You're gonna wanna use this when you're cornered since it's got a wide reach and it deals a ton of damage. I like using the crossbow because it can deal damage very quickly, allowing you to dodge and counterattack at a good range. Its rage move can also be pretty devastating at a close range. Not gonna lie though, I don't really use the crossbow's normal attack and just use it for spending rage points since its rage move only costs 1 rage point. In this floor range, honeycombs can be found on the ceilings which can be brought down by either shooting them or throwing animals at them. Personally, I just rely on the vampire decal for healing, but you can cock these for massive healing. Same goes for lizards and turtles which start appearing on these floors. They take a bit more stomps to stun them and they sometimes bite back, so be careful with them. As for the mushrooms, brain shrooms, gamble shrooms, sprint shrooms, dragon shrooms, ever shrooms, sponge shrooms, and slowmongus mushrooms are available on this floor. Man, that's a lot of new mushrooms. Brain shrooms are these mushrooms that explode into a quick puff of smoke, which makes everyone hit vulnerable to gore-tastic finishers. The inferior variant, false brain shroom, are more common but only offer a chance to trigger the effect of a regular brain shroom. Gamble shrooms are these black and white mushrooms which can give one of 2 effects once eaten. You can either heal up to your maximum health and fill up your rage points, or turn you into a defenseless frog. As a frog, you die in 1 hit, so only this mushroom if you are in a safe place or if you're really that desperate. Sprint shrooms give unlimited stamina for a certain duration. There's really not a lot of things to say besides it's a mushroom with a bunch of legs at the top. Dragon shrooms can be found by killing some lizards. Consuming these will give you an infinite amount of ammo for a short time. You can really make the most out of these with fully automatic or fast-firing weapons. Ever shrooms increase the rate that your enemies get open to gore-tastic finishers when you attack them. I honestly didn't know what they did until I did this video, so hey, the more you learn I guess. Punch shrooms are essentially handheld rockets. Once thrown, they fly straight into the direction you threw it and explodes in an area upon landing. Slowmongus mushroom slows down time for a set duration. During this time, you can move normally and just wail on enemies or just run away from them. There's also the cat eye shroom, which is a more common version which damages you while time is slowed down. It's also worth noting that yoga shrooms also start spawning more from now on, which are great sources of healing and rage points once cooked, so make sure to take advantage of that. Once you've leveled up your gear, the upper floors should be a bit more bearable. First order of business is to kill Goro in Echizenjima since he's blocking the way. This version of Goro summons a damaged skeleton with a machete, so I recommend having a ranged weapon to deal with this guy. As always, keep dodging his attacks until he uses his jump attack, regular bite, and tongue swipe. After dodging those specific attacks, go for a counter attack. If he does the red smoke move, you can choose to poke him with ranged weapons or bait him then counter attack. If he's not doing those attacks, remain on the defensive. Lastly, you can also use special mushrooms to make this fight a breeze. Just rinse and repeat and don't get greedy with going for extra hits and you should beat him in no time. After beating him, your next goal should be to get to Kani so you can unlock 4-star fighters. You're going to want to be extra cautious around these floors because the difficulty spikes even more from here. If things get too hard, you can just run through the floors leading to Kani and just thoroughly explore the floors once you get a hold of the 4-star fighters. Once you get to the 25th floor, you will unlock all classes for 4-star fighters. At this point, I recommend you unlock the elevator on this floor then buy a 4-star fighter as soon as possible, as using them on these floors will greatly increase your chances of survival. Once you've leveled up your new fighter, you should be ready to finish the rest of these floors. From Kani, you can choose to head to Oshimi or Shiminomino. The path to Oshimi will be blocked by Koen and you will have to fight Jindai in Shiminomino. The floor above them will be Shinkobashi, which will contain an elevator. It's important to note, however, that it's sealed with 2 barriers which unlock when you beat Koen and Jindai at least once. You don't have to beat them in one run, but Since the elevator is still shut until you beat both bosses, I recommend you just run back to Kani once you beat one of them, then go for the other after restocking from the waiting room. With that in mind, let's take a look at Oshimi and Shiminomino. Oshimi has this hallway which drops 3 hover tubers. A ranged weapon could help you, or you can just use a punch room to deal with them with ease. The Hoenn fight at this floor will have a new attack where he looks in your direction briefly and starts charging forward. Getting hit by this is pretty painful considering the animation to start the run is pretty fast, but if you manage to dodge this, you can punish him after being stunned when he hits a wall. Besides that, this fight is identical to the one on the other floors. Just dodge and hit him while he's recovering from his attack animation and he'll drop in no time. He also has a high chance of dropping black DOD metal, so take note of that. Now for Shiminomino. On this floor, there's this section to look out for which will lock you down and drop tuber enemies at you. Just be prepared when you see this hallway and you should be fine. The Jindai fight here will be identical to the other ones except for a few new features. Pillars are found around this arena and sometimes she can teleport on top of them. When she does this, you can either shoot at her or just hide until she teleports back to ground level. She also now has a new attack where she will pull out multiple explosive heads which tick and explode after a while. Touching these heads will also cause them to explode, so stay away from them. She will also have the electric shot Jackson had which follows you around. Just leave them where it will hit a wall and stay out of the explosion range. Just like the strategy with other Jindai fights, just run from cover to cover, dodging her attacks, then go for melee strikes while she's attempting to teleport away. As always, if you find these fights hard, you can always rely on the power of the mushrooms. Once you've beaten both of them at least once, you'll have access to the elevator in Shinkobashi. More importantly, however, you can unlock the path to another version of Gyakko Funsha, which sell Tier 4 and Tier 5 materials and black and red faction metals. On Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, he's on Yukiyoshi, which is on the same floor as Shinkobashi, but must be accessed through the violet escalator going upward in Shiminomino. Once you're there, unlock the door leading to the upward escalator for easier access. If you have blueprints that require Tier 4 and Tier 5 materials, you may want to look for him. If you're still having trouble climbing these floors, then crafting new equipment using the things he sells will help out immensely. Just take note, however, that he sells them for a ton of kill coins, so bring a lot whenever you come to visit. Besides this, there's really not much to say from this point on besides this trap on Hashidaka. When you see this area, just be mindful that you'll be trapped here with a reversal tuber and a few screamers. But as I've mentioned, just keep climbing until you get access to the dawn of this place. Now on to Crowley's boss fight. It's a pretty straightforward fight, and I can say that this boss doesn't have that much of a gimmick unlike the previous bosses. Once you meet him, he will roll a dice in his cutscene and the dice roll will correspond to how difficult the initial fight will be, with 1 being the most difficult and 6 being the easiest, as you can see on the table here. The thing to note here is that there will be cannons on the side of the arena that will be firing fireballs, and lightning will occasionally strike every now and then. You can look out for these fireballs by keeping an eye on these cannons, and when they light up, they're bound to fire soon. The lightning is telegraphed by the AoE showing up on the floor, so steer clear of those areas and keep fighting. Once you've beaten the wave of enemies, a very beefed up Goro will enter the field, and on brand, Crowley's gonna attach to this monster. As with all the bosses, beating this boss lies in mastering his moves and knowing how to react. Similar to the base version of Goro, this one also has the leap attack. Just run to the side and jump once he takes off into the air, and you should be fine. If you do this gracefully enough, you'll be able to get a free attack while he recovers. He can also puke on the floor like the original Goto and do up to 3 rolling attacks which you can punish after the 3rd roll. One of his new attacks is channeling lightning strikes around the arena. Don't attack him while this is happening since he has a small field around him that shocks whoever gets in it. While this is happening, just walk around to avoid the lightning strikes. Do your best to avoid running or panic dodging as you increase the chances of getting hit if you do. After this move, he'll be open for another attack, so position yourself accordingly. This is attack where he aims his cannons up and fires a fireball up into the air, landing in front of him. Just move to the side and behind him and you should be good. Don't worry about the bits of lava it leaves, as far as I know, it's just for aesthetics. If you're able to get behind him quick enough, you can punish him with a hit. Sometimes, he starts slowly walking towards you with both fire staff and electric staff firing an elemental stream which moves from side to side. This one's pretty straightforward to avoid, just move from side to side and you should be fine. Sometimes he's going to punch you with one of his arms. It's pretty easy to avoid since his punching arm will light up. Just run to the side he's not punching and you should be fine. I'm pretty reluctant to do a counter attack after this move because he recovers from the animation pretty fast, so he can chain it with another attack. Lastly, every now and then he will scream and start stomping around in place. This is his taunt, so wail at him while this is happening. Only stop hitting him when he flinches or when he finishes his animation. As always, using mushrooms that give you an edge is recommended if you're having a rough time with this fight, but if you've been leveling up your gear, this boss fight shouldn't be much of an issue. After this fight, just claim your stamp and head on to the next floor, which will be the final floor range of the game. That's about it for this floor range. I hope I didn't miss anything. If you're looking for an explanation as to why this video took so long, it's because I was lazy. I'm kidding, of course, that's just part of the delay. I've been working on real life stuff and I've been playing other games, which is why working on this video kinda got pushed back on my priority list. Anyways, I hope you stay tuned for my guide for the last floor range of this game. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video and that I was able to help you in your climb. Bye bye. So, I hope you all were entertained by that video. Click here if you want to watch another video of mine, which is selected by the magical YouTube algorithm. Please don't forget to gently click that like and subscribe button if you liked my content. Thank you very much for watching and I'll be seeing you guys. Bye bye.